Welcome to the Public Opinion Court, where the truth ain't reality, but opinions are. Listen, y'all. Let me just give myself, credit for always being fair, always being impartial, always seeing the bigger picture when it comes to analyzing and breaking down cases and looking past the emotion and sticking to the facts. Because y'all know at the Public Opinion Court, where the truth ain't reality, but opinions are. Listen, as you come in, gather. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube page so that you can receive notifications of when we're going live. Make sure you're liking. We got to get the engagement up. Listen, I'm here for a short time, not a long time. I came to just give y'all what I'm supposed to give y'all because y'all get back to me. Now, let's go ahead and get into it because, ladies and gentlemen, what did I say? What did I say about this particular charge, the RICO? Did I not say they were overcharging? Did I not say they were doing too much? Did I not say I can see a jury finding him not guilty on RICO and guilty on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this is nothing about my personal belief about how I feel about it. This is just the analyzing the case as the case persisted throughout the trial. Baby, I was here with y'all for 31 days straight. 31 days straight. And I still said, as we progressed through, I said, it's not making sense. And it wasn't making sense because I had to dial it back and say, okay, what is the real purpose? Because the purpose is not this particular case. Because I said all the time, prosecutors are out to get a stripe on their name by taking down some of the biggest and most wealthy individuals. And this was no different. When you go in with an agenda, sometimes the system shows you that you are not bigger than the system. And that's what the jury is showing the government. You are the system, but you're not bigger than the system. You came in with a motive, intent, plan, and you use your opportunity as government prosecutors to try. And what it looks like, fail to convince 12 individuals, 12 of this RICO charge. Y'all, I did not agree with taking this man's wealth. I did not agree with the government being able to have access to something that they didn't build, but they tore down. Yes, Diddy is responsible for the actions that he has put him before here today. But I said all the time, sometimes justice is a person showing up and having to sit through a trial and be judged by their peers. They did not convince 12 individuals of RICO, and I said it. Even with it being so easy, this is a big defeat for the government because it was so simple. But you let your ego and having a title of the government of having unlimited resources and power, now you're powerless. That's why I always say, I don't care how many trials I've tried, over 51 trials, I always respected the jury and their decision. I left the responsibility in the jury's hands. And if the jury said, no, not today, Ms. Anderson, I said, you know what? Sometimes justice is a person showing up to defend themselves. And that's what you got to live with. So I want to take you back just, I'm going to go ahead and read something from the trial because I'm going to go over what is considered an Allen charge. We're going to go over that. So what essentially happened? This is what happened today, and this is what was reported from the courtroom. After over 12 hours of deliberation, a note was passed to the judge on Tuesday afternoon saying the jury was in agreement over counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. Sex trafficking and transportation for prostitution, but remained deadlocked on count 1. Both prosecution and defense indicated that they would like the jurors to push on to reach a verdict on all counts, but they were later dismissed and will return on Wednesday morning. There was a concern that was addressed by the judge earlier, concerns during distribution of elements of racketeering conspiracy charges, a central and legal issue in Cohn's case. It followed with another concern that required legal instructions about 10 minutes after deliberation began. We talked about that yesterday. What he is facing, because we have to be very, very, very aware of what is going on right now. So when you have a jury that is deadlocked on one count, but they have come to a decision on 2, 3, 4, and 5. For example, if they say guilty on 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is sex trafficking, 2 counts and 2 counts of transportation, or it can be 1 count of sex trafficking and 1 count of transportation, and they can have a mistrial on Rico. The defense wants them to find him not guilty on the Rico, because if they do not, the government is going to come back strictly for the Rico and try him again. So the defense is saying, no, we want this to conclude. We want them to come back with a verdict, and we want their verdict to be not guilty. However, if it is a mistrial, then you put it on the government to say, you tried, you failed, let it fucking go. So that is essentially what is going on as we speak right now in the mind frame of both the government and the defense. What outcome do they want? The government wants guilty. The defense wants not guilty. The government would prefer a mistrial because they're going to come back and they're going to be able to just streamline it for that. They won't even need victims. That's how crazy it is. So I would prefer them finding him not guilty on Rico. Like I said, I do not agree with the wealth aspect, because they're going after him because he's a wealthy African-American man who had a freaky fetish. And in that freaky fetish design, yes, there was drugs. Yes, there was SA. But you should have just stuck to the SA and the transportation. That would have streamlined the case. You would have got something out of it, but the government was greedy, and they are being shown how when you are too greedy, we gonna show you where that shit gonna release, and it ain't gonna be sweet. And that's what the jury is saying. Like, you brought us up in here over a damn Freaky Rico when the inception of what Rico stands for has nothing to do with a freaky ass man. Make it make sense, government. You wasted our mother time for a Freaky Rico, and you got the audacity to want us to go back here. We finna show you. Because guess what? The government is then is going to have to realize, no, no, we fucked up. We did. So that's what I would say about that, because it is a systematic thing, y'all. This is not just from the lens of them trying to seek justice. And let me tell you why this is not from the lens of them trying to seek justice, because in the defense closing, they made a great statement when they said, well, none of these individuals went to law enforcement. They all went to civil, because civil is another remedy for you to seek justice. The government brought these charges because the government wanted to hold him accountable against the wishes of the victims. The victims were forced to come in here. If they did not force them to come in here, they have no case, because everything was settled behind closed doors. And sometimes justice is in the financial aspect. But no, the government said, no, we want blood. We want wealth. We want to take another black man down because now we got him on his freaky ass fetishes. It's not working. It's not working. The RICO is either going to be a mistrial or not guilty. Period, point blank. I said it before and I kept saying it for the last 3 weeks. I don't see it. I see what they're doing. I see what their agenda. I see what their motive. I see what their plan, opportunity, and the intent is to take a wealthy black man down. When the system reverse unos you. The government is getting a good view of that. So let's look at what the judge is going to require that the jury go back and do. The judge, there's a rule in jury trials called the Allen charge. And what the Allen charge essentially is when a jury is deadlocked on a count or one count or all counts. So what the judge does in return is say, hey, I need you to continue. They give I call it the grenade of charges. This is the charge that has the most deadliest ammo in a case for both sides. He tells them, hey, I need you to continue to deliberate. I know what you sent, but I need you to continue. Every trial where there's a deadlock has to utilize this Allen charge. You cannot bypass it, especially if both sides are asking for it, or even if one side, they are afforded the instruction. So what I put is, what you all can read is what the breakdown of an Allen charge is. And let's say they go back and say, Judge, we have tried, but we still are deadlocked. The judge at that moment is going to render a mistrial on that count. Not a not guilty, a mistrial. It is going to be a mistrial because they did not come to a unanimous decision to either find him guilty or not guilty, because even not guilty, it has to be unanimous. So what does that mean? We talked about the jury instruction, and I would tell you one area of where I talked about the confusion is count 1, 2004 to 2024. I said it yesterday. I said it. Even with it being easy, y'all, they poked holes in the kidnapping. They poked holes in forced labor with Mia and Capricorn Clark being able to find sustainable or even better employment and having the ability to walk away. That is one of the biggest hurdles the government could not get over. They had the ability to walk away. They chose not to. But that is just my assessment. They have robbery, but the law states to avoid a criminal investigation. There was no criminal investigation. I said it. And I'm going to keep saying it. So I even said on the statute of limitation is 5 years. Rico would have expired 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 2023, before Cassie's lawsuit, the Rico statute of limitation had expired. That's why they needed Jane. That's why they needed Gina. Gina decided a week before not to show up. Jane showed up, but Jane, there was a gap. 2021. That was a gap. She didn't come into 2021. That's why I said yesterday that is going to be confusing. She didn't come into 2021. There was a gap that they could not bring in anyone, which would have been Gina, that would have shown the continuation from 2019, and then Jane pick up in 2021. I said it. So what essentially that it looks like what the government, the jury said in count 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this is me assuming. I assume that they found him guilty because from the reports in the court, his body language showed something totally different. It showed that, oh shit, they found me guilty. And let me tell you how I know you can get that information, because bailiffs will come and tell you. I would have bailiffs tell me the verdict before it was announced. I did not like that all the time because it put pressure in. I wanted to hear from the jury in itself. I wanted to respect their process. But bailiffs would come tell you what the verdict is. A judge would tell you what the verdict is. And they said from his body language, they feel that 2, 3, 4, and 5 were guilty and Rico is hung, which is why the defense needs it to be not guilty. And let's say not guilty on Rico, that automatic 20-year minimum goes away. We're going to throw that out. We're going to focus on sex trafficking and transportation. We talked about sex trafficking. The minimum, if he was charged with, found guilty of one, is 15 years. The judge cannot go lower than 15 years. On transportation, the minimum, the most that the judge can give is 10 years, which means the judge can give between 2 to 10 years on that charge. If found guilty on both, that is starting off 15 years, unless the judge runs them together, which most likely it could happen. I'm not saying it will, because there's a thing called sentencing, and sentencing is a whole nother trial that you put on where you bring in witnesses and where Diddy will have to testify in order to convince the judge that, hey, I deserve the lowest amount possible. But I don't know if this judge is convinced that this person is not a freaky ass violent individual, because he had to warn him of his behavior in his court. He saw it firsthand. So if 2, 3, 4, and 5, he's still looking at a minimum of 40 years, a minimum, a max of 60 years, 50 years. And that's just that. So I wanted to come on and break down the breaking news of the verdict and the holdout and what's going on and why and what we've talked about all these days, y'all. It is definitely rumble in the courtroom, rumble, court rumble. Like, that is literally what is going on. I ain't gonna hold you. We're still waiting on the jury to come back to deliberate. I believe they are going to the verdict is going to be read tomorrow. And I'm still holding out that Rico is going to either be a mistrial or not guilty. You have to still get 12 to say not guilty on a Rico in order for that to be unanimous. Just like in a guilty, unanimous. mistrial, you only need one. And we talked about that there were some issues with some of the jurors who were very much fond of defense on days where it was very apparent who they were going to go with. And I can attest that may be the person, the scientist. They are probably the two that are sitting back there saying, let my people go. Let them go. Turn them loose. Turn him loose on the Rico. And I don't disagree, because you do not get to take this man's wealth. That's why I said the system sometimes isn't bigger than the system. And this is something that is on full display, that the system is not bigger than the system. I will be back tomorrow as I break down I will go live tomorrow to break down the breaking news when the verdict comes out. So make sure you are subscribing, sharing this page, comment. I'm going to pull a poll up so you can tell me what you think about all of this. Make sure you are following my social media pages, JusticBae ESQ on Fanbase and Instagram. I'm going to my audio room. Soon as this live is over, come join me in Fanbase. Also, of course, you know, the Public Opinion Court and the Public Opinion Court TikTok and YouTube are the same. Follow, like, subscribe, engage. Y'all have an amazing evening. I will see you all tomorrow when it's going to continue to get real. It's going to continue to get real, ladies and gentlemen.